Maddy Roth with Roth Consulting Group. Today we're going to answer the question about should I scale my PT or OT practice? That's interesting. I'm typically more of the mindset of yes, you should scale. You should try to help as many people as possible. You should try to make a bigger difference. That's more of the psychological reason. But from a business standpoint, it's tricky with these pelvic health practices. So, okay, when you're starting, you're a solopreneur and you can make a lot of profit. Your profit margin is insane when it's just you, but you're capped because your time is limited, of course. So if you're seeing patients and doing admin duties, you can keep it pretty small. You might be renting a room from a chiropractor. You might be on their Wi-Fi. Or you might be doing a hotspot on your phone and you're doing all your calls yourself. You have ultimate control and no overhead, really. There's hardly any overhead, just doing your laundry at home. All right, so when I was at that stage of business, I just pulled some numbers. So one month where I was a solopreneur, I was making about $14,000 of income and I had $3,000 worth of expenses. So my profit was about $11,000 for the month. So if you put that into a salary for a year, that's $132,000 a year. That's a really nice salary for a PT. Less headaches, you're the boss, you're in charge, and you make a great salary. It is a lot of work, and $14,000, you could make more if you could see more patients, but really, once you get to be seeing 20 patients a week, that's a lot for a solopreneur if you're doing your own calls, your own marketing. So you are capped at the amount of income you can make, but you still have a huge profit margin. Next, when you have your first PT or OT hire, I think that's probably the worst spot to be in. So you're almost better either staying as a solopreneur or getting through that next phase where you have one therapist and try to get through it quickly if possible, and then getting to the point where you have multiple therapists. When you just have one therapist, that's where everything starts to change. So I guess I would plan on, if you want to have a lot of profit, you either stay solo, nice profit margin because your expenses are so low, or you build it up to where you have at least 2 therapists on staff, because then you're back to having profit. When you just have one, you can have profit, but you have to have it really dialed in. So a lot of times when you hire that first therapist, you're also needing, at that point, you kind of need an admin because it's getting a little crazy with you and the therapist and filling both schedules. So at that time, you need an admin. So there's expense of the admin. You probably need a bigger space or your own space where you have a couple treatment rooms. If you're wanting to still continue to treat, you need more laundry, more lube. There's not that much equipment, but you might have more of a desire for some equipment too with that. When I was just solo, I didn't have a squat rack. I just had a bar, and I would just help patients clean the bar so they could do stuff with it. But then I was that's kind of janky. I just had one set of yellow dumbbells from a garage sale. Then when I hired someone, I'm I kind of want dumbbells. I kind of want a squat rack. Let's make this kind of legit. So anyway, just expenses are just insane in that second stage. So you're having to pay the therapist, and it's kind of hard to know how many hours you need her for. So you're maybe you overestimate and you have her full time, but she's only seeing so many patients a week. We also need to account for the training, the amount of time it takes to train your admin, to train your therapist. They're not going to be good when they start. You're going to lose a ton of people on the phone. You're going to lose a ton of clients that you would have been able to keep on just because your therapist just sounds like she doesn't know what she's doing. You don't have, and it's not her fault. It's actually probably your fault because you don't have the processes in place yet, which you can have processes built out, but really until you're doing it is where you actually learn, and you're working one-on-one with someone and seeing what their weaknesses and strengths are. I mean, these therapists, they don't know sales. We do need to train them on how to speak with patients and how to build a schedule. And sometimes we might not even know, because a lot of times our superpower as practice owners is just, we just are lovers. We just love our patients and they love us, and we have such deep relationships. We don't need a lot of patients to fill our schedules. And these patients, they just keep coming to see us. You only need a few patients and they're seeing you and they're coming every month and they're on visit 40, and you're just like, I love you. And they're just like, take my money. I just want to hang out with you. But when you have therapists and they're a little less motivated, you know, it's not their baby. You have to set some standards like, hey, we need to get our visit average around this amount. Otherwise, they don't really care. And all they think about is maybe a clinical outcome, which they think maybe they can get someone better in this many visits, 8 visits. But we also forget we're a cash practice, and if people want to keep coming to see us, hey, come on in, be my guest. And it's a little different mindset as a business owner, I think, when you're having to go out and find more patients and you're just like, I've got a perfectly good candidate here that just loves coming, and it's essentially glorified personal training, but she loves it, I love it, and we're BFFs. And she's already written 2 Google reviews for me and done like a video testimonial and a reel, and life is good. Okay, so that first stage is tough. I guess my advice would be, after making these mistakes myself, if you can, hire an admin or a therapist, not at the same time. I hired mine both at the same time. So we were losing people on the phone. We were not booking evals out. We were losing new evals. It was scary for a time there. I was like, woo, okay, we have 10 patients this week for my full-timer. Okay. Yeah, that was scary. So I definitely would recommend in that stage, if you can hire, it's hard because you do kind of need them at the same time, but I would probably hire an admin first, even though it seems like a wasted resource because you don't really need the admin support, but you will once you need a therapist. I would probably recommend doing the admin first, training them, getting a great call script for them, making sure they can close people on the phone and you got people coming into the clinic, and then hire and train a new therapist. So, but that second stage, you're not making much profit. If you're anything like me, we were pretty much break even. I didn't really treat patients, so it was kind of just like, well, my new therapist took over my caseload and lost a lot of people. Bless her heart. She's a great clinician. But I had no processes. I didn't have an eval script. Okay, but after you get through that first hire, that's when the magic happens. So now you have scripts. You have an eval script. You have a $97 Facebook ad eval come in that's cold off the streets. They don't know what you do. They don't know if you're actually a real business, and they come in and boom, your therapist knows what they're doing. They're doing the script. They're getting them booked out for a 12 visit plan of care, whatever your standard is, and life is good. Once you're getting past that first hire, you have those scripts in place. It's really easy to train that next person because you've seen it all. You've seen the questions people ask the newbies and know how to kind of prevent some of the issues from occurring. So after that, you have it pretty dialed in. Once you get through that first person, if you can push through that and get to another hire, that's when your profit comes back. And that's when your income can get to outrageous amounts. Where solo, you're stuck around, I don't know, some of you guys probably have a lot more tenacity than I do with treating patients, but I mean, I was capped around 18,000 probably when I was seeing patients on my own for like income for a month. But when you have multiple staff members, it's just rinse and repeat. Every new staff member is basically another 20,000 your business can have as income for that month. So that first therapist, they might just be covering all your expenses. They're generating 20,000, but they're covering your admin, your space, all like the laundry service, just everything. Then after that, 40,000, 60,000, 80,000, 100,000 months. So, and you get dialed in too. Like I really think that it's not really that my business has grown. It's actually just that I've grown as a person and now I can grow the business. And that's like kind of what is going on with our Troy clinic. Our Troy clinic is making the same amount of income as our Saginaw clinic is right now. And we've been open in Troy for a month and a half. And last month we had equal amount of income. It's just when you learn how to do something, you just do it again. So for Troy, I knew what equipment I needed, bought it all, got the clinic going, hired and trained a therapist, an admin, and they're dialed in. And then we're hiring another therapist. And my therapist in Troy is just insane. She's just, I mean, she's so good. She is just so good. She's such a fun person. People want to be around her. I mean, every single patient wants to book out a plan of care. So thank you for doing such a great job. She does such a good job, and all my staff does. But giving her a little shout out. So, I mean, she sold so many packages. She sells so many packages in Troy that we're like months ahead of where we actually are because of how many packages she's sold. Yeah, I think you just learn how to do it. And that's what's going to happen like when we open another clinic. My thought is we'll probably open another one about 3 hours west of us next. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little tough at first. It was about $10,000 to outfit our office. Then, you got the security deposit. Our rent was $2,000 and you got to pay $4,000 for it. So it was about 10,000, that's an investment, but then boom, you just do the same exact thing you've done at your other clinics. And once you have that process dialed in for training admin, training a therapist, you just rinse and repeat over and over and over and over again until you want to stop, really. You can keep going, put clinics wherever you want, or you can really stretch and push into your area and try to get more therapists in your area. I'm, I guess, a little lazy. I know it's super easy for me to fill a therapist not in my area because I can just push the social media marketing, which no one else is doing anywhere. And we can fill a couple therapist schedules really easily in different areas of the state. So that's been our strategy. It's a little different than probably almost everyone listening to this, but yeah, I think that I want to just inspire people that you can do things a little different than traditional. If you don't have to have all 7 clinicians at your location, and we could have a 3rd full-timer in our Saginaw clinic, but I would have to grind so hard to get that 3rd clinician. or a fourth clinician. I'd be grinding. I'd be in those doctor offices, pounding the pavement. And actually, for me, I'd rather just pop an office a couple hours west and turn on those ads, turn on our social media marketing, get our Google profile going, and fill a couple girls over there. It's a lot less effort for me. Just a little different strategy. I'm sure there's pros and cons of both directions and going with your business. So anyway, tangents. But okay, back to what we were chatting about. Just know if you do want to scale, you are going to have to scale. Like if you're just hiring one person, it's probably not going to be smart to do that. So either you stay solo, have a nice salary for yourself, and see some patients. You hire one person, one admin. That's not a great place to hang out, in my opinion. Once you get one more therapist, though, you're on it and you're on track and you're back to having profit and you can do amazing things. You can help so many people and you can finally breathe. Whew. Stressful when you break even with one therapist, but whew, when you get that next one in, the one's covering all your overhead, the next one is just like, ooh, what are we going to do now? Like, we've got a little profit. Like, do we want to pour it into opening another location and helping more people or somehow expanding our services? There's options when you aren't breaking even. So, all right. I think that's it. So just mentally preparing you guys to know that once you go to that one therapist, you're in and you got to get to that next one before you can be in a cozy spot for the most part. So, alrighty. Hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Have a great day.